thanks for joining us and welcome to Gartner Live. I'm Adam Woodyer, Vice President Analyst here at Gartner. And today we'd like to talk a little bit about the top trends for tech providers in 2022. Today I'm joined by fellow analysts Rajesh Kandaswamy and Ephraim Barron to discuss a few of the trends that we can expect to see this year. Gentlemen, great to see you both. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the trends we are talking about today stem from our work on top trends for tech providers 2022. And for this, our first edition in 2022, we took a step back and put technology and service providers in the context of a broader kind of socioeconomic landscape. With the impact of the pandemic, ensuing recovery, and all the recent volatility around supply chain issues and economic uncertainty, providers have found themselves much more tied to their customers' business issues. They're no longer really solely focused on selling products, but they really have to understand and deal with a broader set of trends outside of pure tech. They have to enable their customers to succeed. And at the same time, they have to compete effectively, right? And defend against emerging competitive threats. So with that as background for why we started this trends work in the first place, let's jump into some of those trends. And Rajesh, let's start with you. What have you been talking to clients about with respect to these trends? Anything that would point to that stands out for you?
Absolutely, Adam. First, thank you for having me. So in these tech trends, we have in total 10 of them, and of which a few of them have definitely been getting a lot of attention recently. And I will touch upon a couple. The first one is about intelligent applications. Intelligent applications is this trend in which we are seeing that many of everyday applications that we use, whether it is in consumer, whether it is in business, those applications are getting a big dose of AI, artificial intelligence techniques being added to them. So what we see is that, if you think about computer software applications, they have been built forever. And in them, all these programs are written very procedurally in the sense that if this happens, do this. And now what we are seeing is that with AI, these applications can work differently. They use data and learn and try to solve problems in new ways. So what does it mean is that these applications that we use can either do what they do today, but in a different way, better, so improve their processes, or in some cases, Adam, they have new features. Or third, they can give you new experiences. Let's look at an example, for instance. So today, companies, they process and offer you products. You go to an e-commerce website. They offer you a set of products for you to see. And that's all based on algorithms. They use significant amounts of data, all of that, right? But now with AI, they can look at many more variables. They can look at weather in your area. They can look at what you might like. And so they use a level of intelligence to make it even better. So that, for instance, if Ephraim likes basketball and he's done certain things, very specific products are offered to him. So it's it is allowing for something what they do in a better fashion. Or it could be something very simple, or offering new features. Many of us might be using Microsoft Outlook every day for mail. And nowadays, you may have noticed, you get an email in the morning saying the things for you to pay attention to from your old mail. Because AI technologies are used to pass through all your email to see which ones you might have to take action on, which ones you might have to pay attention to. So it is adding a level of intelligence and offering it to you. Or it could be completely new experiences that you do in terms of what you see and how you work with. So we see all of them today. So intelligent applications is not just a little change from what applications used to be. At Gartner, what we see is based on the advancement in technologies and based on all this data, it is a big leap in what applications could be. But Adam, clearly we are in very early days. It is still just being absorbed, but the implications are huge. If you are consuming somebody else's application, or if you're building your own in your enterprise, this intelligence-based applications will unleash a new way of innovation in how software is being used across. We will all see it every day as consumers, and our businesses will make use of them as well. So that's the first big one, Adam. We get a lot of questions from clients about once we explain, they immediately get it. So how do I make use of it? Where do I initially start to use? What do I do this year versus next year? We get all kinds of questions like that from our clients. That's one big one. So the next one that I wanted to touch upon, apart from intelligent applications, is somewhat related, at the same time distinct as well, is on democratization of technology. What democratization of technology is this fundamental concept. If you think of who builds technology products and services, who creates all this, it's mostly people sitting in IT who have a formal education on some sort of programming, computers, network, all of that. Their job is to work on computers or they're related to that. That world is shifting. What we are starting to see is that there is an entry of a significant number of people who are creating something with technology that is useful. So, for example, I live in New Jersey, and during the pandemic, as all of us would have experienced, when the vaccines came, you couldn't get vaccines everywhere immediately. I mean, there was a good job done; vaccines were distributed, but it was not clear whether this pharmacy, this Walgreens will have, this CVS will have. For some of you who might not be in the US, these are big retail pharmacy companies where you can go and buy drugs, get your vaccines. So it was unclear who might have the vaccines. So there was clearly a scramble here. And one of the most useful things at the time was this one particular Twitter account. This Twitter account did one thing. It will say, in this Bergen County, this Walgreens here has got 50 Moderna doses. Here in this Jersey City, this Walgreens has got 75 doses. And it was simple, clear, consistent, and frequent. Simple Twitter account. And lots and lots of people used it. The interesting thing is, who built it was an out-of-work Broadway stage actor, because New York City is close to New Jersey, and it's shut down, and this person did not have regular work during the pandemic. But he took it upon himself to create this useful service of providing vaccine information to everybody. Look at the explosion of democratization here. First, he's from a completely different field. And he created something in which he didn't make any money. Is it a technology product? No, it is a bot on Twitter. But was it useful? Probably the most useful thing in New Jersey during the time. Did he make any money? No. So this is an example of democratization of technology at its extreme, but not the only one. We see people, business technologists, sitting inside companies who are now able to mix and match things, who are able to create useful products and services that helps their business. But the story is not only who is creating this technology, Adam. It is also about what is being created. This vaccine information is a bot. In some cases, it could be a report. In some cases, it could be a mishmash of data together, a mashup. So the concept of a technology product and service itself is changing. And that has got important implications to whether you are a technology company, whether you are a large bank. It's got huge implications, all sorts of implications. It can expand with whom you can work with to build technology, useful technology. It may not be the guy, it may not be the IT guy or girl. It could be lots more people. They may not be in your company. They may not even look like IT people. And in terms of what is useful, it might not always be these applications that you build and deliver. It might be these new types of mashups that you do. So we urge everybody to kind of think about technology as not only something as an application, but much broader. So those are the two things, Adam. It's one is applications becoming intelligent, and second, this concept of democratization, where technology is spilling over outside the IT department. Both are interesting trends. They are growing. They will continue to grow because the momentum behind them is large, and we see this having large implications for everybody.
It's great, Rajesh. I remember the Twitter example. It's such a good example of democratization. Ephraim, I guess, does this ring true to you? Any thoughts on the first two trends?
Absolutely. We see with democratization of IT, things like the low-code, no-code platforms, the Power Apps that Microsoft provides, the ability for people to look at ways of improving how they do their job without having to put it into some formal syntax and request process and then wait. So yes, absolutely. And all of these trends are the transformation of the workplace and how new capabilities, we see so many organizations wanting to modernize, to digitize. What exactly does that mean? These are the things that means. This is taking the concept and making it real.
Yeah. So I guess I would ask you the same question as I asked Rajesh. What are the things of the 10 that seem to really resonate with the clients you're speaking to? And what is the impact on them?
Yeah, I mean, first is talent agility. And whether you call it the Great Resignation or whatever, however you frame it, it's really about this competition for talent that has exploded. And our latest CIO survey, when we asked them, what is the most demanding problem that you have today? By more than a 2-to-1 margin over the next highest one, it's talent. It's finding the people we need to do the job. 61% of CIOs say this is their biggest challenge that they face. And we see it in a number of statistics. And I will, as a side, mention that at our Tech Growth and Innovation Conference that's coming up, this is one of the key areas of the track that I'm managing. We have a number of sessions on this and from a number of different perspectives. But some statistics, there's often 3 times more postings than available talent to fill them. We're seeing the delay between posting and fill being months. And then hanging on to people is really a challenge. It's how do you make yourself the place that they want to work? How do you become that employer of choice? And the competition is global. One of the things we say is there is no untapped pools of talent in the world anymore. You can't find, some place where there's good tech talent and nobody's heard of it before. Everybody is beating the bushes to try and find talent. And what it means is the way you go about recruiting has to change. So writing those job descriptions for the purple unicorn that has all of these skills and is very unique, you can't do that anymore. You have to look for potential more than specific skills. And then as we look at talent pools and how they're recruited, that has to change as well. So you look at, the recruiting team in HR who will go out to the normal job boards and channels that way. Well, that has to extend. So having the ability for team members to be recruiters for their teams and be the advocate, and that's a very effective way to recruit people, is if I'm talking to the person I'm going to be working with, that is more reassuring than having some job description sent to me. Looking at things for existing employees, internal mobility, rotating job assignments, short-term assignments, reskilling. How do you do that in a way that makes them feel that they have a real career growth path? Looking at contingent workers and gig workers, how does that figure into the talent pool? Looking at alumni. I think of my last company, our CEO said he used his FTP network. Follow the people. Look at the people who used to work for you and where they've gone, and are they candidates to come back, or are they candidates to sell to because now they're in a more senior position? hiring whole new teams or groups of workers and removing those geographic constraints that we've had in the past, because remote is the new normal. And so how do you combine all of these into a single talent pool? That's what we mean by talent agility. Empowering your employees to be the connectors, having the agile work style and approach so that people feel like they're constantly being challenged and growing in their skills. One of the things that we look at is a squads and pods approach, where you have teams of people that are cross-functional. So say I did this at my last company, create a DevOps squad. And that's everyone from full stack developers to systems administrators and from a range of concerns. And this helps to build a more broad perspective across the organization and cross-skill people, upskill people very quickly. Another thing is looking at the combination of hard skills, soft skills, and continuous learning, because it isn't enough to be the foremost technical expert in one particular area. It's how do you find the right people that will fit in the organization and the culture. A couple other statistics on this that I find really compelling. So when we asked how many tech workers are considering changing jobs, 72% said they were. I mean, that's a staggering number. And what was the number one reason? It wasn't money. It wasn't compensation. The two things that they want most are flexible work style and the number one thing, the manager they work for. And so when we said, what is the number one reason you're looking to leave? I don't like the manager I'm working for. If you could work for someone else, would you stay? The majority said yes, they would. So that's another thing that organizations really need to focus on, is making sure that the work style, how they're being managed, how the employees are being managed, makes them feel valued, makes them want to work there. And so flexibility is key, flexibility in hours, in locations, in roles. So that's what we see at a macro level from talent agility. The second topic is distributed enterprise. And this is really affected by two macro trends. First, distributed workloads, things like distributed applications, as well as edge and IoT workloads. And the second is the pandemic impact on the workplace. So looking at the workloads, we see this proliferation of devices. And in the old days, everything happened within a single, corporate data center. All the data was generated there, the analysis was done there. More and more, we see this being extended to diverse locations as devices are generating the majority of the data. So everything from intelligent monitors in the consumer world, fitness applications, things like that. The smartphone is probably the biggest generator of data there. And what does that mean? Well, in the old days, edge computing was a core out kind of a model, the CDN model, where you had data in a central location and you pushed it out to be closer to end users for performance. More and more, because that data is being generated at the edge, it's now an edge-in model. And the whole concept of data gravity is it's expensive to move data. It's easier to move the compute and storage to the data and process it in place before sending back a subset of results. And so what we see is this need for edge AI, for compute and storage that is more flexible and closer to the source where the data is being generated. These distributed applications also require distributed security, and that's a big challenge. And so an area that we get a lot of inquiries about is Secure Access Service Edge, or SASE. And the fundamental concept behind SASE is, rather than creating a security perimeter and directing all traffic through it, you bring the security to the application based on the identity of the requester and the context. So you think about an employee who's using an online application. What do they need? How do they interact? Versus, let's say I have a wind turbine and it's a device that's sending telemetry. And how do I connect and protect that? So it really is transforming how distributed networks, distributed applications exist and perform. On the worker side, and this ties into the talent agility as well, the pandemic has transformed the workplace. So in our one of our talent surveys, fewer than a third of workers say that their preferred location for work will be the corporate office in the future. Most people want that flexibility of work from home, either part-time or full-time, especially knowledge workers. And again, what does that mean? It means a distributed world. It means bringing access to people where they are on the device that they want to use. So we've seen a big growth in both device and cloud desktops. This also brings the requirement for zero trust network access. Again, similar to SASE, how do I protect endpoints while providing the services and capabilities that users need? Remote meetings and collaboration, where we all saw this, that during the pandemic, everything is happening remotely. Well, that makes a lot of organizations rethink, how much do we need to have people travel and be on site? Similarly, we see with technology and service providers, this really opened up the ability for remote delivery of consulting and professional services. And that, again, where we see some interesting survey results where providers say that now they've increased the amount that they're delivering remotely by 40% of consulting and professional services. And on the flip side, for the customers of those services, 56% have said that they find the delivery capabilities and experience better than the on-site. So genie's out of the bottle. This is not going to go back to the way it was. And so again, because people can work from almost anywhere, how do you coordinate, collaborate, govern, put in place things so that people can be productive, be happy, stay with you, and become effective advocates of your organization. So the talent agility and the distributed enterprise interweave very closely.
Yeah, I've noticed a big impact on cost structure of tech and service providers as well with this distributed model, really freeing up a lot of dollars for reinnovation or reinvestment. So really interesting trend. Rajesh, any response to those trends in the work that you're doing?
I think the one, you might have seen how many of these trends are connected. And if I start with the last one that Ethan spoke about, the distributed enterprise, the genie's out of the bottle, it is the COVID was a big accelerator for distributed enterprise, but we would have eventually gotten there because every large industrial revolution fundamentally has changed how humans get together and work. Whether it is, when we started moving away from hunter-gatherers and sitting in small houses, or going to small places and work on looms, or whether when steam came, we all went to where steam was, and then when mass manufacturing came in large factories, and then offices when we had computers initially, all of that always occurred. So with the digital technology, with connectivity, us being spread out and working instead of getting together in these really tall buildings would have been an eventuality that we had come to. COVID accelerated it. So immediately, while there is a lot of implication to the tools and how we work and all of that, this is all in the first version of this new world. When the internet initially came, all the newspaper companies adopted the internet, but they made all the web pages just look like the newspapers. But then look how we are today, how media has changed completely after internet. So while we are initially saying how companies work in a distributed world, it's going to change even more. There will be new sorts of services. There will be new parts of the enterprise where we never relied on outside companies that will change. The concept of collaboration, the concept of coming up with an idea. It'll be interesting to watch this next phase, what it brings. It won't happen immediately. The short term, you'll see some changes, but in the long run, there will be much more. And a lot of it, Adam, I bet, is going to come from completely new companies that do not even exist today. That'll be interesting. So it's important for us to pay attention to companies that are born post-COVID, that are fundamentally fragmented and distributed. How are they surviving? What type of innovations they create? And clearly,
That's such a good point.
And as they do that, it's one of the things to consider is talent agility. What Ephraim explained, some of the interesting data. It's if you see the problem, today's problem is around talent and like the being agile, the solution might not be only in, as Ephraim said, finding where talent is. All the talent pools are exhausted. So you need to think beyond. Where are you using the talent? What types of products and services? Where things such as democratization come in? Or in terms of fragmenting your work itself and your work processes, where distributed enterprise comes in. So while this problem might be in being agile about talent, for the solution, you'll need to look beyond talent. That's what we see.
Such a great way to tie all of this together, draw a line through it all. Great summary, Rajesh. This is all great. So look, we just touched on 4 of the 10 trends in our research: intelligent applications, democratization of technology, talent agility, distributed enterprise. So much more to dig into, and you can follow up with the full report. You can download that in the link below, I believe. And for further discussion, be sure to register for our virtual tech growth and innovation conference, July 12th and 13th. This is an important event for tech and service providers. So please look into this, reach out, ask questions if you need more information. Rajesh, Ephraim, thanks again to both of you for joining us today. I think this was really helpful. Some really interesting stuff. And a big thank you to everyone watching this at home as well. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the week. Take care.